Hey, what's up? My name is Lana. Nice to meet you. You can also call me LJ, Lana Jade, or Jade. Jade. I'm going to start this video speaking in light language, also known as mother tongue. And I started this yesterday on TikTok. I decided I was going to speak in my mother tongue in front of humans, and it was scary. It was scary, but it also felt really fun because I was reflecting on the idea of language as a barrier, language as a divider, language as a power structure. We often default to language as the primary communication device. And we have multiple languages across the world. And when you don't know a language, it puts you in a position of vulnerability and a lack of power. For example, you go to the nail salon, you get your nails done, and they're speaking another language. You don't know if they're making fun of you or not, but we've all been there, and we've all thought that maybe they're making fun of our hair, maybe they're making fun of our outfit, right? If you know the other language, you have a in the know type of experience where you no longer feel kind of scared or vulnerable that you aren't understanding what's going on. And when I was reflecting, I've seen many videos on light language, and I personally enjoy listening to them, and it makes me feel really at peace. And it allows me to feel like I am one with my family, even though it's not words, even though it's not English, even though the meaning linguistically, semantically, morphologically might be unable to be translated into the English language or any language that you speak. The frequency of the transmission, the way it is like, I don't really exactly know what I'm communicating, but I know what I'm okay, let me try that again. It's not that I don't know what I'm communicating energy, and I don't exactly, it's just the energetic movement through me in a way that's unstructured and untouched by the English language. Now, of course, I am personally influenced by the English language, and perhaps my sounds could sound English, but a lot of the time they don't. And I think I used to be nervous about speaking like that. One, because I didn't know I could do it. And I felt like light language was a special thing that only like special people can do. And on the other hand, I thought in some way, shape, or form I was being racist. And I don't know how I could objectify a culture that doesn't speak any of the languages of the world, but I am someone who consistently considers the collective, and I would never want to offend anybody with the way I speak. And I had spoken in light language on my TikTok, and I didn't call it light language, and I honestly am a little bit uncomfortable with the term, because if somebody around me who knows me in my real life heard me speak like that, or like even just talking about light language, I can feel it, and this is within myself, right? So I'm projecting onto an imagined other to process an emotion right now, which is one of shame. And that speaks to, look at this. I'm not gonna pick you up because I'm scared you're not gonna be able to go back because you're propped up on like a flower right now. But this, put a pin in the language thing. This space, so this sacred space, this is my Nani's screen porch. Sun porch, sunroom. It's just sliders all around. And this particular patch of the yard has full tree cover. And so there's all this beautiful moss. I'll show you when we're done. How's that? All this beautiful moss and this beautiful shaded area. And it's just like, when I was a kid, I used to honestly be a little scared of this area. But it always felt like an adventure. And I also really love moss. Like, I really love moss. And I love mossy rocks. Anyway, so I saw a squirrel. Squirrel! Literally. And also it's easier, I find, to become distracted when we are uncomfortable with whatever it is we're sharing, and we're not, like, let's call it, we're not fully aligned with whatever it is we're sharing, right? We are not able to, now I'm wondering if the sun is over here, if the lighting would be better if we moved. What do you think? Should we try it? I know I don't edit my videos. Maybe if I'm really careful. No, because let's just try it. I don't know. It's not that the lighting matters to me. I'm just like, I think you guys are seeing the behind the scenes because I don't edit any of my videos, and I think that adds to the person that I am, and it feels like you're here with me versus me creating a show for you. Like, what? I don't know. Do I want to move? I do. I kind of want to see what it looks like. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick you up, and I'm going to try to be so gentle. Huge fail. Oh my god, it's totally different over here. This is a metaphor, as always. I feel like it looks exactly the same. Do you think it looks exactly the same? Leave a comment. Leave a comment. You guys, I'm best YouTube video ever, am I right? By grace through faith. Does this make sense? It feels a little different, right? Me looking at myself. Okay. Anyway, I don't know why I needed to turn, but anyway, now you can see more of the porch. And this is like where, I don't know, like I'm kind of emotional, to be honest. This is a very sacred space for me. Kind of just being emotionally vulnerable. Anyway. So what I was describing earlier is this idea of projecting onto an imagined other, right? So if I say, I could imagine someone expressing this, and now I will say I do consider the collective often, but in this particular case, what it means for me to be able to speak in my mother tongue, what do I mean by that? So I brought up the fact that people around me may think I'm a little crazy, a little kooky. Kooky is the word for it. Like, I'm just a little kooky. And it reminds people of how Bruce Almighty talked in that scene where he goes, blah, 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 blah. And maybe that is what it is. Maybe that is what it is. And light language, even if the whole idea is bogus, right? Let's operate on that principle for a moment. Even if the whole idea of light language is bogus, there is something really beautiful about enough human beings coming together and coalescing and treating it as if it were not bogus. And receiving messages from it. And so personally, I listen to light language, I think it's Light Activations with JJ on YouTube. And I love it. I love it. I think it is so relaxing, so calming. And whether or not it's, changing my cellular DNA or whatever, who's to say? But it is beneficial for me to listen to. And so I will do a demonstration of my own version of what this is and what this sounds like. If you are not familiar or you've never heard light language, it might to you just sound like nonsense. And it's not meant to be deciphered as if there were words. It's meant to be felt. Much like our facial expressions can't speak, right? Like words. Our facial expressions can't speak words. But we still perceive the communication. So if somebody says, cool, we know that it's not really cool. But if they're like, cool, then we do, right? It makes a difference. So for me, utilizing my vocal cords in a way that provides a amplification and amplification of my truest expression without having to put it in the box of English words. And let's circle back before I saw the squirrel, where I was talking about the power structures. I am in a field, sure, and a period of my life as well where I am acknowledging and recognizing the different matrices and confinements that are found in our world. Oh my God, I keep seeing a shadow, and I'm like, hello? Is there somebody there? In my periphery, it looks different than when I turn my head. And the English language is one in which there is a power. So like I said earlier, right, when you go to an environment where you are not the primary language speaker, right? If you go to another country and you don't speak the language, you are at a disadvantage. And a lot of, for example, the United States government does this as like barrier to entry. Like you have to understand English in order to like fill out the paperwork, right? Sometimes they have it in Spanish, I think. But even if you don't speak English or Spanish, like you're kind of fucked here in the United States anyway. And moving to the bigger picture, so that's, you know, a very tangible example, but if you move to the bigger picture, I read this book called Gyne Ecology, and it talked about a lot. I never even finished it, but it talked, oh, do you hear the wind? Do you see it? Oh, it's just a beautiful day. Anyway, it talks about how men use language to control women, and how women, utilizing the language created primarily by men, we imprison ourselves. So by opening my heart and my mind to utilizing my vocal cords in a way that is anti-power, but rather liberating, it provides me with a sense of peace. When I posted my first TikTok yesterday of me speaking it, I likened it to the idea of baby babble, and I will always say this. We do not try to learn baby babble. In fact, we call it babble, and we do not assign meaning to it. We say, oh, look, they're learning phonemes. Oh, look, they're learning parts of a word. Or, oh, look, they're mimicking us. But we never really try to decipher. I mean, perhaps a parent does, right? But we aren't wondering what profound things they are unless you're Boss Baby or like an animated film, right? Like, and people joke about it. But nobody really takes kids seriously. And just to go off on a quick aside, I was in traffic in front of a school today, and I just saw, you know, all the kids holding their parents' hands crossing the street, because this is like an urban environment, so there's not like a lot of cars. And even though I just said there was a lot of traffic, but you know what I mean, there were a lot of kids like walking, crossing the street with their parents, and they're all wearing these like really heavy backpacks, and I just felt the weight of that, like as a young child being forced to go into a cinder block building and sit and being force-fed information. And I've said this on my channel before, that I think in the future we'll look back and call it like cruelty, unusual punishment. Some humans can't get behind that, and they're like, no, it's necessary for society and blah, blah, blah. But ultimately, I watch these kids with their backpacks and I go, this is not doing our children a service. Like, we are putting them in a container for hours a day, teaching them indoctrinated material, rather than allowing them to explore who they are and what this world really is. And when we just keep forcing people to learn the past, we are propagating history to repeat itself. Versus when you acknowledge that every child has a new, fresh perspective that we should be listening to, fostering and nurturing, versus telling to sit down and shut up. So, had I been a child, and I believe this probably did happen, had I been a child speaking like that, I might have been in light language, one could say, or what I'm going to call my mother tongue, which I do have an album called Mother Tongue. It's about this, in a way. It's about like finding your voice, and it's really impactful. It's a really powerful album. I quite enjoy it. If you want to check it out, stream it everywhere. If you're in school, for example, or you're in any environment where humans don't speak your language. Now, this could be body language. This could be, like if you think about humans with autism, arguably most humans don't speak that language, where you are, in social situations feeling a different type of way than other people. That in many ways is a language of its own. There's an energetic language. And language, having taken many linguistics and philosophy and psychology and biology and developmental and speech language courses, not that I don't know why I feel the need to cite that, but having been immersed in the material and learning about the critical period and childhood development and all this stuff, like, I really see now how language is utilized as a tool to divide and conquer, to subjugate, to structure, and to create powerlessness. Now, if I spoke, and circling back to the baby babble point, when I posted on TikTok, I started the conversation by saying, actually, I didn't actually end up posting this video, but I have a draft that I talk about how we dismiss baby babble, and they say goo goo gaga, right? Goo goo gaga. And throughout history, I don't know, I don't belong to an indigenous tribe, and I don't belong to a nation in which they treat their children differently than they do here. I believe that there's something to be said there. I believe we are doing an injustice and a disservice to our children by not listening to them and not valuing them, and instead imposing our beliefs on them. And I'm not saying that adults aren't more equipped to protect and care for their children in the world that we live in, and they are equipped and understand how the world exists as we know it. And we want to prepare our children for safety, security, yes, but even more thriving. Like, we don't want to just live in safety and security anymore. We want to thrive. We want to grow. And through this propagation of, or I should say, like, parents and teachers are the disseminators of a system of information, a structure of information, where we try to protect our children and teach them the ways of the world so that way they can succeed. But we are teaching them the ways to succeed in the world as we know it now, versus imagining and co-creating a world with our children that they can thrive in. It's kind of reverse and it's kind of backwards. And I think being here at my Nani's house, I am really channeling my younger self, who felt like I knew so much but didn't know how to communicate it. I felt like I had a wisdom but felt weird about it, and everybody told me I was too young and too naive to have really anything to say. And people would just continue to tell me, you'll understand when you're older. And then older came and I never understood. And I just know, like, for me personally, when I have a child, I will not be putting them in the school system, and I will not be imposing my beliefs and my structures onto them. I will absolutely inform them of how the world works right now, but I am going to allow them to imagine and explore what life could be like if they really were able to change things for themselves and for the world. And imagine we had real conversations, not just conversations, but simple, short communications, or lived our values in a way where young kids got together and imagined a future for themselves that adults assisted in bringing about. It's a co-creation. Like, yes, I'm not saying, like, there's this idea, I believe, that some humans would be like, well, if we give children all the power, then they're just gonna want like pizza parties and eat junk food and or something like that. I don't know. And it's like, that is a fallacy. And I believe that we should co-create with our children in a way where they bring bright-eyed imagination and innocence and joy and perspective and fun and energy to spaces that genuinely are dark and rigid and stagnant. So that's that on that, but I don't plan on having a child until I can give it all my attention. Because I believe that we should be present with our children and show them what real unconditional love is. And so many people, unfortunately, at this time are working multiple jobs or, have to get daycare. And I'm not saying that those are bad things. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that I believe our children are underserved. And I felt underserved as a child. And I am speaking for her today. And she would like to say some other stuff too, but it won't be in English. And I don't know what it's going to say. I'm just going to do it until the message is complete. So if you want to stick around and listen to the light language message, feel free to do that. I'm going to speak in my mother tongue. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Love you so much. And if you want to book a session with me, you can email me at lanajadereads@gmail.com. I do oracle cards if that's something you're interested in, but I also just do conversational sessions to help align your vessel on the trajectory you really want to go in life. You can check out my TikTok as well for more of my vibes. And I also go live almost every day, so check it out if you want to foster discussion there. All right. It's kind of I'm nervous and vulnerable because I haven't done it on YouTube yet. And I also don't know what I'm saying, So, okay. This is something of how it would go. How it is going to go. Hai, Krishna kan mana am joy kata. Akan duan mana kata, Aishwana mana kata. Hai ngomanai, Krishnamanai, kai putura karapatiam, Ashukana ni makanang, Tiasatam. How can no one Krishnamanai akodai, Anganuna katunai, Akatuka Sokamanai Nakatai, Hai ngomanai, Akashukaraam, Yakidai, Opdai, Akashnai, Alawinai, Tukarapai, Mukapatai. Aku pernah Krishna kan orang kaya animumnya, kau mana ni option kaya berkara. Hai kau harus nama kaya ya, suka orang mana Krishna lagi rasa Hai, siapa sekatay ko tahu Krishna noi kau berkata, kau tak sanggup noi kau kata tuai. Hai, kau tak koi, Aishna koi, tapi tak ketai, anu, Krishna, Krishna tu jarak tu jarak tu ini Krishna, Krishna kan berapa ketek tu ni ketai, orang nak Krishna ni ketai, hai nu Krishna ni, mungkin pada yang kita nu ni aku berjaya, anu kita Krishna mana ketai, anda kau berjaya ketai, stop ketai, pelakar kerja tu ambil tak ketai dawan ni ambil kah. En nu stuk op de kai lo wat hat stuk vet dat ik traf de floy ak floy kai ai stuk tai kra kra ka stuk tai en no kan no stuk tai la mbakatui ka tasnu pel kalai en la do snak lo de dai en lo ka da snu ka tai tu ka ta maru ti ja en no ka ra ba sina barai tu ke ta snu barai Hai Krishna mana kita udah sebenarnya kata tu sulkar praktik tai tu praktik tai nomor kita sebenarnya dai tu re paketau Hai Krishna mana kata na kata mereka tu ni kata wala kata semua lain allo isno kata waya paketai makata wala tu betul and lo wala isno badai kata kun ya badayo na kata isno kata dai tu ikat fai kata ni Krishna badai and look at that one of what they should get out of good eye and cook a wreck the petan kaka kushnai Takatpay ko berdua we dekat kuanai ang kuara kapatakitai action kuara kapatakat. Takkan kita harus nak patakat harus takat kuingka. Kapag kita ko betul kita kaputu akatu mudis nak karbo kita tak wa kapitin yak lo apetakai. Yono ta koroi tapaka. Action katakai mura kita badai alo kara para kita kudu dari kita proi. Ando korre meketai alo ada karbe awuren mengayo mesum kara para kara patata ai ko yang betang pakata baroi. Akatu res tapatakai ko takta un tapata. Mereka petak lapa ketoprak. Dukara prek ya brown pakata. Asnak patakai alo waraka punduan ya waraka sunu barabalai. Dakro barabara dabar glob glob blab gorabda ger sabra kar blub blab blub blab blab ger blab tak tak snak nablai. Allo baraka sunu matakai allo kara patak betul tak snak lai and tokora patata nuara patatia alno barapatasnia takara rata patak inwara patakiti nombai allo koto snu lai lakabun lai makata do snu lai lakra to sna katakta allo ka patai la kurang pampakai lai kai shavala pangarupatita rupata ai korra matakatai shokwatai nangkorra patai shokwatai la pakorra patai onno bakatata ai shokwana marakatai tu shokwatala urra papa anu korra patai tu shnovala katuna katatai duria pata urra pakatamai alokata snora vala lokodai bapadai korra patata tu shnokola iko ala latina no kanora tapatai ala konnashna wara tata korra patati rakapatai no guys na wara kita no tartitiku tatas na wara pata allo para tapton din so katira patun allo ko tartar ku tura patati tur rastatita na rotati kor pata asno ko patiti harakata mandai so katanta bara tatai tusna para tak prosesna to patak tak for jakso tak tusna karkarap tu tak ako rapatik tunay ko ratak patatai no pagkatas ng palakrastay dito krak timbro pata and kusang paday love to kupta abri mo tata tusna labay kapag sa tikataur kitaptay sno kadata parora tatia ala kruta ni para kadala ala kaptira sno kadala kedudia ito tatara tes na kitapi kita to rila patik dilo na pata akatarur sa tatina korran patatatay haro katapatata sno patatai tai tonda marakatai tonda patapatan ta chokusna palakalakitai kutuda mani optuka dunia dan kusno barekata ito no barakatura tatatara tino tura para kala papa tuptishna akatushna katapatata bakal rambat katai rosa stapata katai loko patata or patatu makatitiron tata rora barakata be beto manu marshna badala badai to no katavara badai toro ya tata kai to tekatoro tata sincero ada sapata kala pre ada ko patano mera ni rosa kanai mona no to tai akaro tara ba kapiro no mera check akaro padamna no sna para creo arrokta sí. Ai, creo que están a comentar que no pata ahí, pata te quitan no te que tomar esto que tal no pata todo pata ara rigora bueno na to puto ai mo kota no es kana pata tu tan tai que se para kata tu tan para kata tu pata que to presa to ratio per pata tu pata atau kau tahu berapa kata tu na yang ada orang nanti gila berapa tu nasi napai lah berapa no kita tahu ada sesuatu kata tu aku belum tahu problem tu kata lagi asik kalau berapa tu tadi orang dah berapa sebab kita ada tu kalau tu ada kita ni nggak suka dari itu asal ada berkata nana orang kalau ada tu ada lagi Okay, I need to stop. No. Okay, so here's what just happened in my head. You can see how I get like it's fun. It's fun. Whether it's bogus or not, I felt that. I felt that so hard. And as I speak, I hear the translation in my mind because it's the expression that comes through the vocal cords that I'm able to express. I'm not focusing on the words that are formed. Instead, I'm focusing on the sounds, and then the sounds make meaning in my mind. And I did not want to speak English I didn't want to go back to speaking English. Like, I just didn't want to. Like, I was like, okay, I should probably stop now. And then I was like, no, I want to keep going. Like, I want to keep speaking like that. And part of me, I'm like holding myself right now. This scares me, like, as a human being on the internet, like I said, because I do imagine, and I am scared of the idea of somebody calling me crazy or batshit, or what if I'm not really saying anything? And it's like, no, I'm not saying anything. That's the point. Like, it's not supposed to be preformed meaning. It's meaning that is made through the act of sharing the sound. Meaning that is made through sharing the sound. And everyone hears it differently, much like with words. Words are the same way. I could say cool, you could say cool. We both have two very different ideas of what it means to be cool, although we can have a shared understanding via the word cool, but together the only thing that's similar is the phonetic pronunciation and the way it looks on a page written. Cool, right? And so cool is like a code. And so much like the words that we form in English are code, the sounds that we make are also code. Just like when somebody screams or somebody's like, right? Like, that was nonsense language, nonsense syllables. But a lot of beautiful music, for example, I'm thinking of Jake Runestad, I think, the choir composer. He has a lot of cool music where he uses nonsense syllables. And it creates some powerful shit. And perhaps that's also what inspired me. And as someone who used to be like, I don't know if I can speak in light language. Like, what light language means, again, to me, is being able to express meaning without the confines of the structure of the already existing languages that contain us in a way that we cannot fully express perhaps what we are trying to express. Now, for example, when you, like, I posted a video of me being like, right? And there were a few different comments, and one of them said, no, yeah, I really understand what you're saying. Like, not actually, but it was like, no, yeah, that part, right? There is an energy to it. There is a connectivity to it that even if you don't know what I'm saying, it's an exercise in energetic understanding. What do you really hear when you hear sound from somebody else's fucking body? What do you really hear when you hear nonsense syllables coming out of somebody's mouth? We as humans put so much weight on words in our communication. And like I said, we have body language, we have expression. But what of our vocal cords when not speaking English? What of our vocal cords when we are not speaking the sanctioned language? And this speaks to being in a dense environment, for example, when you can't just get up in the morning and scream for fun, right? Because your neighbors might be like, the fuck? We live in a world that's so confining to so many of us. And speaking our truth doesn't have to be in English. That's what I'm gonna say. It can be in whatever expression medium, right? Like dancers, their body is the medium, right? We don't call that dance language, but we could, right? So meaning can be conveyed in many different ways. My vocal cords fucking love making sound, and they're trying to tell me there are so many more sounds, so much more meaning we can make without the English language. Even if it makes no sense to our minds, that's okay, because it felt good in my heart. Anyway, I'm kind of vulnerable. But thank you for being here. Let me know. I would love to foster a conversation on this whole concept of light language, baby babble, nonsense syllables, meaning making, and what it really feels like to be part of something that feels a little bit insane. All right. I love you. Thanks for being here. I'll catch you in the next one. Lana out! I used to do that all the time in my videos. It's kind of fun. Maybe I'll bring it back. See ya.